You're on mute, dear Govinda Prabhu. We didn't hear what you said.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Hare Krishna. We're studying from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 8, entitled Questions by King Parikshit. We're on text 10. Today is December 24th, 2020. We're on text 10, Chapter 8, Canto 2. Narayanam namaskritya naram charvinarotamam devyam sarasvatim vyasam tato jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, to Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, to Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayeshu Bhagaveshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavat Yutamashloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. So text 10, chapter 8, canto 2. Sa cha api yatra purusha vishva stiti udbhava apyaya muktva atmamayam maya isha shete sarva guha shayam sachapi atra purusho vishvastit yudbhavapyaya muktva maya mayesha shete sarva guha shayam sachapi atra purusho vishvastit yudbhavapyaya muktvat maya mayesha shete sarva guha shayam sachapi atra purusho vishvastit yudbhavapyaya muktvat maya mayesha shete sarva guha shayam sachapi atra purusho vishvastit yudbhavapyaya muktvat maya mayesha shete sarva guha shayam. Online, would someone like to recite the verse?
Sachapi yatra purusho
Sachapi yatra purusho
vishvashtiti upavapyayaha
vishvastit yudbhavapyaya
muktvatma maya mahesha
muktvat maya mayesha
shete sarva guhashayaha.
shete sarva guha shayam.
Sachapi yatra purusho
Sachapi yatra purusho
vishvastiti udbhavat payaha
vishvastit yudbhavapyaya
muktva Mudvatma Mayam Mayesha.
Upvatma Mayam Maisha.
Iti Sarva Guha Shayaham.
Ete Sarva Guhashaya.
Shachapi Yatra Purusho
Sachapi Yatra Purusho.
Vishvashti Barapyaya
Vishvasti Yudbhavapyaya.
Atma Maya Mayesha
Muktvatma Maya Mayesha.
Kete Sarva Guhashaya.
Chete Sarva Guhashaya. Okay, we'll go to the word for word. Sa, he, cha, also, api, as he is, yatra, where, purusha, the personality of Godhead, vishva, the material worlds, stiti, maintenance, udbhava, creation, apyaya, annihilation, muktva, without being touched, atmamayam, own energy, maya isha, the Lord of all energies, shete, does lie on, sarva guhashaya, one who lies in everyone's heart. Translation. Please also explain the personality of Godhead who lies in every heart as the supersoul and as the Lord of all energies, but is untouched by his external energy. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Undoubtedly, the form of the Lord who was seen by Brahma must be transcendental. Otherwise, how could he simply look upon the creative energy without being touched? It is understood also that the same Purusha lies in the heart of every living entity. This also requires proper explanation. Amoganatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapradantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapadakam Shri Gurun Vaishnavams Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Paritana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatayubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Srimad-Bhagavatam Canto 2 Chapter 8 Text 10 Sachapi Yatra Purusho Vishvasti Yudbhavapyaya Muktvatma Mayam Mayesha Shete Sarva Kuhashaya. Please also explain the personality of Godhead, who lies in every heart as the supersoul and as the Lord of all energies, but is untouched by his external energy. Hare Krishna. Maharaj Parikshit is he's asking about absolute truth. He's asking about the absolute truth. That was a few days ago. Yogeshwar Prabhu led class and he made that distinction, the distinction Prabhupada often makes between God, we can speak of God, and absolute truth. And so God in a sense means controller, and we're all gods in a sense. And Yogeshwar during his class asked that to illustrate the philosophical point that we hypothetically accept that he's God in his home. So we needed to hypothetically accept that point. Okay, so we're all controlling some sphere. It's like in this office cubicle, I'm God, like that. Okay, with my dog, I am God. Yes, sometimes it is said, yes, if only I can become the person that my dog thinks I am, that sort of thing. So, yeah. So, but then there's absolute truth, which talks about, that's what Prabhupada uses terms like the supreme personality of Godhead. And Maharaj Parikshit is inquiring here of Shukadev Goswami, and Shukadev Goswami will then narrate responses that Lord Brahma, the head of our disciplic succession, gave to his son and disciple Narada Muni. And so, okay, so it's described, and it's the science of God. This is the science of self-realization. Science means a vast body of knowledge, and it also means a process, an experiential process through which we can realize those truths. And so what we have here in Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, these teachings of the Vedas, it's a science in both respects, that it's a vast body of knowledge, really about all fields of human endeavor. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, and of all sciences, I am the science of the self, both self with small s and capital S. Right? So all the idam pumsas tapasa shutasya that shutasya sviktasya chabudi datyo avichu torta kavibir nirupito shidvanti ganti grinanti sadhava, that yaduttamashloka gunanuvarnanam, that all sciences, and that verse in Bhagavatam describes economics, physics, psychology, social work. All sciences, all arts are meant to bring us towards realization of absolute truth, realization of Uttama Shloka, the supreme personality of Godhead. Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyaktamortina matstani sarvabhutine nacham teshvavastita. And that's a verse in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna describes it's like really the quintessential Achintya Beta Tattva verse 9.4 in Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna describes that, yes, he is everywhere and everything, and at the same time, he has his separate personal existence. Galoka eva nivasat yakilatma bhutto. He has that Krishna is existing, and he's having transcendental fun in Galoka Vrindavan, and simultaneously, Andantarasta Paramanuchantaras Atma. He's existing in the heart of all living entities as the super soul. That's the Paramatma is a manifestation of Krishna. So the verse in Brahma Samhita goes, Ekopya sarvachaitum jagadanda kotim yachchaktirasti jagadanda chayayaranda andantarasta paramanu chayantarastam govindamadi pusham tamaham bhajami. And so Brahma's expressing there, he's having realization, as Prabhupada describes here, the form of the Lord that was seen by Brahma. So Brahma's having realization that this form of the graceful three-folding bending form of Krishna playing the flute is that all of the universes are contained within this form, and Krishna exists in his completeness in each atom. So that's really far out if we try to think about it. And yes, so that yes, all the universes exist within the form of Krishna, and Krishna exists in his fullness in each atom. So this is, it's not that we can have no realization about that, but it's inconceivable. The Western philosopher Kant wrote a book that became very well known, Critique of Pure Reason, meaning that with material logic and rationale, we can come to some point, but then for that which is beyond our senses, but it's Srila Jiva Goswami, Prabhupada often quotes Srila Jiva Goswami, said that the first requirement, the first eligibility to understand God is to accept that God is inconceivable. Right? So that's not a contradiction. It means to accept the limitations of the epistemology of positivism, of what sort of knowledge is available through mundane mind and senses. And so it's described in the Bhagavatam, Vedanti tat tatvavidas tatfamyaj ganam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdite. Learned transcendentalists realize the absolute truth in 3 phases. And I don't know of any other philosophical system, theological system, where we have such expansive and precise knowledge of the absolute. 3 phases: Brahman, and then Paramatma, and then Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tat Shradadana Munayo Gyana Vairagya Yuktaya Prashant Yatmani Chatmanam Bhaktya Shuta Grihitaya. And so the humble person, someone's humble meaning like, yeah, like what I'm able to do on my own without the grace of superior persons is very limited. And so the humble person, filled with knowledge and detachment, realizes the different phases of the absolute through performing devotional service in the line of disciplic succession. Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharacha Vidimvida Aikantiki Harer Bhakti Utpataya Vikalpate, which means that if we try to do service to God, not under some authorized line of teachers, then in the name of spiritual God, we'll probably create a mess. We'll probably create more disturbance than good. So this is that's why we stress so much our current link to the Parampara, Srila Prabhupada, a bona fide, authorized, living example of the Bhagavatam. He is the person Bhagavat. So it's safe and secure to endeavor to receive knowledge and perform devotional service under the guidance of Srila Prabhupada. And I'm just noticing because it's a particular season here. Supposedly Jesus was born, took birth. Tomorrow is the anniversary of Jesus's birth in some traditions, many traditions not. But anyhow, apart from that, so there's the word Maya Isha, the Lord of all energies. So I know when I was living in Arab villages, the name for Jesus was Isha, like Ishopanishad. So it's actually it's a Sanskrit name for the Supreme. In the Prema Dhavani prayer, as Ramachandra did in Isha Putra Ki Jai, son of God Ki Jai, if we caught that. So
In Hebrew it means woman.
yes, Isha. The accent's a bit different, but Prakriti.
Yeah.
Prakriti. Okay, we're going to have some Semitic language discussion here. So so in any authorized teacher, and that's why we've I've shared a few times in recent months. I think it was in Montreal, 69 or so, and a guest asked Prabhupada, well, what about Joan of Arc? Somehow they asked about Joan of Arc, and Prabhupada responded, Joan of Arc, yes, she is Srimad-Bhagavatam, of course. Prabhupada talks about the Krishna consciousness movement, and in the same breath talks about just like Jesus. So it's just, there's no separatism there. It's, according to time, place, and circumstance. Maybe some of the details of the teachings are different, but whether it's the absolute personality himself or his pure representatives, they're always endeavoring to meet us where we're at and support individuals and peoples and groups of peoples all over the planet, all over the universe. All over the universe this universe is just a speck, really. It's like one mustard seed in a huge bag of mustard seeds, and this universe is one mustard seed. And to meet us where we're at and support us to come towards this consciousness of King Parikshit. This chapter is entitled King Parikshit. This consciousness of full absorption in hearing and chanting about the absolute. And so we come to that consciousness, Bhakti Shruta Grihitaya, through devotional service, through devotional service. Even if we look here, like we quoted the Eko Piso Chatum Jagadandikoti verse, and Antarasta Paramana Chantarasta. So even like in terms of, say, modern science, okay, so like clearly they're looking. But it says like, okay, so this is someone who everything is contained within this entity, and simultaneously this entity is submicroscopic, and it's like within the heart of the atom, and it exists transcendental to time, and it's the source of everything. Okay, so clearly they're looking for Krishna, but we don't want to call it Krishna. We don't want to call it God. No. So we'll call it something. We'll call it singularity. But if we look at the qualities, they're looking for Krishna, looking for Krishna, and then that's that requires some shift in heart, to acknowledge that that I'm not supreme. I'm not supreme, and that what I'm looking for is this supreme person. It's natural for the parts to want to be connected to the whole in this. That's why Prabhupada gave us this morning program, ideally also evening program, that we're connected in this process of the soul, the jiva soul, connecting in hearing and chanting about the absolute. This is our nature. And Maharaj Parikshit here, Shukadev Goswami, surrounded by the sages, they're completely absorbed there. I was hearing a lecture from Prabhupada just a day or two ago, and he was saying it's like if someone's in prison, and maybe we're locked in the cell, maybe we're chained up in prison, and we're declaring there is no government. So actually, the fact that we're locked in the cell here, chained up, it's kind of an indication there is a government. Sometimes people say, there's no God because there's suffering and cruelty in the world, and bad things are happening to good people like me. So again, it's kind of like, well, really, this is Durga. Srishti Stiti Pralaya Sadhana Shaktir eka chaiva yasya bhuvanani biparti durga ichanurupamapi yasya chachestatesa govindamadi pusham tamaham bhajami. So that's a verse that describes Kali, Durga, material energy, Parvati. Durga specifically said, Eva Yasi Bhuvanani Bibharti Durga. So Durga is in charge of Sri Stiti Pralaya, creation, maintenance, destruction, in charge of the material energy. And Durga means fortress, it means prison house. So yeah, so the prison house, it's kind of designed to not be a nice place. It's designed to be a place of suffering. There are gradations, right? There could be a minimum security prison. There could be solitary confinement. There could be straitjacket. But the idea that there's a prison house indicates there is a government. It indicates there is a government. And so our opportunity for ourselves and others is to really support that's real love, to support each other. Like, yeah, let's stop tinkering around in the prison. It's just like, oh, she's got that cell. It's like 2 square feet bigger than mine. I want that cell. Oh, yeah. He got half an extra scoop of slop. Why did he get the extra? But I deserve it. He paid off the guard. It's just like, okay, yeah, whatever. Yeah, it's prison. Yeah, and so like let's like focus in not on the extra half scoop of slop or whatever. Let's focus in on getting out of the prison. Right. So that's Bhagavatam. That's Bhagavatam. And that's why Prabhupada gave us this whole program. Yes. So tasmade kena manasam bhagavat satvata pati shottavya kititavya shajya pujasya nichita. Therefore, it's recommended, whether by Jesus or Muhammad or Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, recommended with single-pointed attention. Let's focus on devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is our Sanatana Dharma. This is our eternal Dharma. And as a result, Yadanudyasina yuktas karmagranti nibandanam chintanti kavitas tajya konukuyat katarati. As a result, we cut through the binding knots of karma, we get at the root, we cleanse at the root of the desire to keep ourselves in prison, the root of our criminal desire. And that comes from and that's why Sutta Goswami rhetorically asks, who then, kind of like, who in his right mind won't attentively hear Srimad-Bhagavatam and chant the names of Krishna? He like compassionately, rhetorically asks, who in his right mind would not give their life to that? This is the get out of jail free card. This is it. Yes. Srinvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanam Vidanta Stoya Bhajani Vidunoti Suritsatam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the supersoul Paramatma in the heart of all living entities, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee. So I'm a devotee. Am I a truthful devotee? Oh, I'm not really true. So, but it specifically says the truthful devotee. So there are gradations of devotee. So Sri Krishna personally cleanses the heart from material desire for one who's developed the urge to hear his messages. So we're seeing that here. So Maharaj Parikshit, he's got this urge to hear these most auspicious sound vibrations. And so we're all familiar with kind of his history, the story. So he was cursed to die in 7 days. He could get out of the curse. He has connections. He could get out of the curse. Really, he does. He has connections. But he decided not to. He got, okay, I got it. So he's setting an example for all of us, just like Arjuna did, setting an example. And he's saying, okay, I got 7 days. So he's just focusing in. Now, I mean, we don't want to imitate because like he didn't sleep, didn't eat, didn't drink water. Okay. Right. And the sages there at the Ganges, you know, we use this expression sometimes. We have all the time in we have all the time in the world and not a moment to lose. So we're absorbed in the transcendental service of the soul, hearing and chanting these sorts of questions and response. We're absorbed in that. It's a timeless space. We have all the time in the world because that's what life is for. The sages here, they're on the banks of the Ganges. They're not like, well, can we kind of rush through these cantos? I got stuff to do. Or I gotta get to the bank before it closes. So we're only on the third cant. Now, so we're not advocating to neglect our responsibilities. The principle, though, is that in fulfilling our responsibilities at all levels, let's have front and center. Let's keep in mind and heart and consciousness our eternal responsibility, our eternal dharma, and then let all of our temporary dharmas really be like rivers that flow into that ocean. Be like rivers that flow into that ocean, energizing us to fulfill our eternal, our sanatana dharma. There's temporary dharmas. Yashastra vidmutrija vartate kamakarta nasa siddhim avapnoti nasukamna param gatim. And Krishna says, in fulfilling our temporary dharmas, let's do that as much as reasonably possible, or even we can get unreasonable, in a sattvic way, in a way that's according to regulations, that will uplift us and not degrade us and not deteriorate us. Yes. And while keeping in mind the cultivation of our eternal dharma, that each day, or at least each year, coming to the closure of each year, we can see, yes, I've developed more of an attraction to hear Bhagavatam, to hear and chant Bhagavatam. I've developed more of an urge that in this coming year, I'm in increased enthusiasm to dovetail all parts of my life, all temporary dharmas, into cultivating and sharing, hearing and chanting about the absolute under the guidelines of Srila Prabhupada. Okay, well, I'll read the verse again. Text 10, chapter 8, canto 2, Srimad-Bhagavatam. Sachapi yatra pusho vishvasti yudbhavapyaya muktvat mamaya mayesha shete sarva guhashaya. Please also explain the personality of Godhead, who lies in every heart as the super soul and as the Lord of all energies, but is untouched by his external energy. So, external energy, a word we've used for that the past dozen years or so, is material context, human context, material context. And that's what we endeavor to do with all of our Safato programs to support ourselves and others, really to be genuinely, not spiritual bypass, but genuinely transcendental to the external energy. The external energy is intrinsically disturbing, and that doesn't mean we need to be disturbed. You're asked to try Namuyati. And the way to do that, there's no artificial way, and there's no void way. The way to do that is to connect in an attitude of devotional service, to the Supreme Transcendental Person. Then we too are untouched by the disturbances of the material energy, by the waves of the ocean of material energy. And that's Katenu Kampam Susamikshamano. Punjana Evat Makritam Vipaka Viba Apurbir Vidadanamaste Jivitayo Mukti Pate Sadayaba. That, when the disturbances of material energy come, and they will, I think it's a quote by Mike Tyson. Everyone has a strategy until they get punched in the face. Thank you. Jai Mike. So, yes. So the material energy will punch us in the face. So then what's our plan? So the devotional heart, the devotional heart is just like I'm not surprised. Just like, yeah, I got myself in prison, and now I'm in prison, and people here are acting like criminals. I cannot believe it. I'm shocked. Once they were in a conversation, they were asking Prabhupada about terrorism. This was like 70s terrorism. I mean, terrorism's always been there, but it became really wide in the Middle East, terrorism, hijacking airplanes, things like that. Especially like with the 1972 Munich Olympics. It was around that time, so it was big in the news. And so they asked him Prabhupada about terrorism, and then Prabhupada said that, okay, if we're living a life of animalism, maybe it's intellectual animalism. If we're living a life of animalism, basically focused around trying to improve eating, sleeping, mating, defending, with practically no science of transcendence, he goes, okay, yeah. So there's going to be rabbits and deers, and there's going to be tigers and lions. And so, some animals are vicious. And if that's what the society is geared to, a sort of intellectual animalism, some animals are going to be vicious, like lions and tigers. Let's not be surprised. So, okay, so when we get punched in the face by material energy, we can, with some knowledge, this isn't really very surprising. And it's not even like blaming them, yeah, I'm attracting this, I created this. I've punched others in the face and I've been their disturbance, whatever, whether in the form of other people or pandemics or whatever, we get punched in the face by material energy. What's our plan? Do we become disturbed and the goal of life is to try to reform it and fix it? Or okay, I'm punched in the face with material energy. I'm using this as a catalyst to take deeper shelter, to be like Maharaj Parikshit, full absorption in Srimad-Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna, thanks for your presence and attention. I welcome at this time any questions or comments.
I have something.
Okay.
When you're speaking about the scientists who look at, that element that pervade everything, and also that inside the smallest of the smallest, and also the greater cosmic manifestation, and so
and beyond time and the source of everything. Yeah.
So I'm just wanting to make understanding distinction there, because the word God or the word singularities, I'm wondering how much it matters. Because spiritual life, like we were reading the other day, it's about self-surrender.
Yeah.
And self-surrender is not about knowing God. It's about allowing myself to be in the unknown.
Allowing myself to be, I didn't catch that.
In the unknown.
In the unknown. Yeah.
It's a self-surrender, like,
Yeah.
And, like kind of putting my arm in the sky, asking question, why am I here, what I'm doing. So, so I'm looking at understanding distinction, because let's say if someone call it singularity.
Yeah.
And come to a place of like, wow, singularity is powerful. Singularity is everywhere. Singularity seems to be moving everything. Singularity seems to be above time. And develop this kind of sense of self-surrender to that energy singularity that they call singularity. It seems that it will be a spiritual process versus maybe knowing God or saying God or using the word God, but then controlling everything and not having that self-surrender. So I'm just like looking at distinction, because at the top, I guess the spiritual life starts with questions. And so those scientists, it seems to ask the right questions. And still, for many of them, it doesn't lead them to God. And I don't think it's because of the nomenclature of singularity. It seems that there is something else in the attitude consciousness somewhere.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm curious about all those distinctions.
Yeah, thanks for that. Thank you, Malini. Yeah. So that's the natural human spirit of discovery, whether it's manifested through endeavors like art or physics or astronomy or psychology. I know myself, if I look back in my teen years, early adult years, I was always interested in the macro and the micro, and I never had much interest in the meso. That's why it's a little bit ironic. I have degrees in social work. Never interested me. But macro means like the stars and space, and I was like, yeah. And then the micro, like psychology, what's really true deep within, and like that. But as far as the meso, like politics, economics, it never interested. Sociology, it really didn't interest me so much. So science indicates knowledge. So that's a very admirable quest. And it's not about the nomenclature, like, oh, you're backwards because you call it singularity instead of God, or vice versa. No, but to like that. And so that's why in that part of the class, when I went there, then I went to that's why it requires a humble heart. So there's the natural search. Prabhupada right in the preface of Bhagavatam. It's natural for humans to look at the stars and wonder, what is my place in the universe? What is my part? And then through physics and astronomy or whatever field, we come to, there's some force, entity, call it singularity, whatever, that contains everything and is yet infinitely dense and powerful and beyond time. Okay, and then depending on the condition of my heart, I'm going to want to relate to that with Ishvaraham Aham Bogi Siruham Balavan Sukhi, with I am the controller, I am a smart person, I will control the material energy. Or if I have a more humble, soft heart, then I continue in that humble spirit of childlike wonder and discovery. about, yeah, so what's my part? What's my part? How am I the same as this powerful transcendental entity, call it singularity, whatever. How am I different? We continue in that humble spirit, and then singularity reveals more and more truth. So yeah, so the basic strive for the scientific knowledge, that's human, that's spirit, soul, that's very wonderful. Okay, then when we come to some realizations, then what's our realization? What's the condition of our heart to continue in that humble spirit of discovery, or are we then wanting to deny that there's anything greater than the brain of me? Thank you, Melanie. Len.
Yes, thank you, David. I'm wondering how it is that our Sanatana Dharma becomes so covered over, because, and then we get away from it and get wrapped up in the temporary stuff, because my understanding of Dharma, it's like something that's intrinsic to your nature, right?
Yeah.
Like the Dharma of fire is to be hot, right?
Yeah.
So what happened to our Sanatana Dharmas and all of the jivas running around in the prison house here that we don't realize what we're supposed to be doing? It's supposed to be intrinsic to us. It's our Dharma. What happened?
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and so then what happens such that we get where the actual important thing is that I need to get to the bank in time before it closes. Without connection with that, with our Sanatana Dharma, we get absorbed in the drama. And as Shakespeare quotes, life is a tale told by an idiot, filled with sound and fury, signifying nothing. And then it just becomes this empty, desperate groping for nothing. So how did that happen? So that, I mean, for me, the diamond analogy is helpful here. So a diamond is always effulgent and strong and shining and beautiful. A diamond is, and a diamond can get covered by dust or dirt. A diamond could get covered by a foot of mud or a mile of mud or 10 miles of mud. But the diamond is always strong and beautiful and radiant and effulgent, shining brightly. But it's covered. But its nature is the same. And then, okay, and so we've allowed, through use or foolish use of our free will, we've allowed the diamond of who we are, the diamond of the soul, to be covered by dust, dirt, and mud. And that's meaning of love. Meaning of love is voluntary exchange of affection and service between two conscious entities. Voluntary is the operative term there. And so we're not robots. And so we exist with that capacity for self-determination. And self-determination means we have the capacity to misuse it, to use it stupidly, foolishly. And so we've done that, and then we don't lose our nature, but we forget what our nature is, because it becomes more important that I establish myself as I'm the controller, I'm the enjoyer, and I don't want to dedicate my life to serving singularity or God or Krishna or like that. And so by we make that choice, and then we cover the diamond. And so we can think in terms of, when did that happen? Or we can think in terms of cosmically, and I can think in terms of today, this morning, right? We're just like, and it's, for me, this isn't just theory. I experience this every day. I hope I don't experience it today. Like right now, I'm, it's all relative. It's all relative. I'm not like, shining like a pure devotee soul. But right now, since 5 a.m., I'm involved in hearing and chanting, intelligent questions and discussion, sincere people dedicated reading Bhagavatam. I'm experiencing myself alive, effulgent, shining like that. And then, maybe after class, I'll eat more than I need to for breakfast. And then I'll, so I could go, Philip, how could that happen? It's a mystery. It's not a mystery. When I'm indulging my senses and mind in my enjoyment, then it reinforces the illusion that I am this body, etc., etc. Thank you for your Ladu's comment. Yes, and right. So it's and then I'm aware. I like to say sometimes whether I'm following the path of bhakti or not, I always get scientific experiential confirmation that it's true. So yeah, just look at today. Like when let's say if I go to internet and I absorb myself in meaningful correspondence, maybe I read some of the Bhagavad Gita responses and it moves me to look in the purports of Gita and respond. I facilitate, different Shastra courses. Then even internet, which can be a really life-draining energy, as we all know, even internet, I feel alive and I'm shining in my soul. Same time, if I start clicking here and there, I'm curious about, and I go down the slippery slope and it's 2 hours later and I wasted time, then I feel wasted. So that's our choice, to cover our diamond or to clean it. Thank you, Lynn. Anything else? Yes. Sarah.
Hi, Krishna. Would you share what you said about the name Jesus and Isho again and where that came from?
Okay, yes. Well, I know back in my Middle East days, I found this when I especially started interacting extensively with the Arab population, Druze and Muslims. So the name for Jesus in Arabic is Isha. And so I always found that interesting and fascinating. And we have a mother tongue Arabic speaker here, Faina. Hare Krishna. Yeah, so I always found that fascinating because Isha, it means controller, it means supreme controller. It's a name for Ishvara is a fuller name, but Isha, it's a name for Krishna. Isvara Parama Krishna. Krishna is a supreme controller, Satchidananda Vigraha, with a body made of eternity, knowledge, bliss in sublime transcendental form. So Isha is a name for Jesus in Arabic. Then let's see. Then Yeshua in the Hebrew is the name. The religious Jews, at least some of them that I associated with, they would refer to Jesus as Yeshu, not Yeshua. And Yeshu means, may his name be forgotten. Yeah, so their spirit was not exactly, let's celebrate diversity and things like that. But no, that's really the name that the religious Jews, I'm not saying like your average Jewish person that you might run into in Gainesville, Florida, but like when you go to the home of Judaism in in the old city of Jerusalem, Iratika. So Yeshua in Hebrew, and then in Arabic, Isha, which means it's a name for Krishna. So isn't that fascinating? Okay, so Yeshua means salvation in Hebrew, right? Thank you. So we got a native Hebrew speaker and native Arabic speaker. Yes, so Yeshua, and then what I heard, so then the religious Jews took out the last syllable, and then the meaning is, may his name be forgotten. So they got some attitude there.
I feel interested because I have this book that I stole from my childhood church. And it's like all the songs that we sang as kids, and I've been reading and singing them more recently, and I just feel so moved by like now what I can understand. And it feels like there's such depth, but also I never would have gotten to the depth without reading Bhagavad Gita or hearing this way. And then that's painful. To feel like the stop at something kind of, lots of the words feel kind of like it's poetic and it implies these things that I can jump to, oh, that probably means what I read in Bhagavad Gita, but without having that, I might not ever jump to that place. So it's been a really beautiful kind of, I do that in the morning before I say hello to Prabhupada. I sing a Jesus song because it gives me that feeling of like childhood, innocent connection, and then also like wanting more. Just wanted to share that.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah, I in 83, 84, I mean, just for about 4 or 5 weeks, I studied in a yeshiva in the old city of Jerusalem, and it was intellectually stimulating. I was with the top rabbis in the world, Rabbi Ackerman and Weinberg, and Kabbalist rabbis, and like that. It was fascinating. And still, if I look like somehow I wasn't inspired enough, like to even come close to say reading the Torah cover to cover. And then after I came to Prabhupada's teachings, and then it was about 15 years ago, I read Old Testament and New Testament from Genesis to Revelation, and it was fascinating, and it was just alive with God realization and self-realization, and that was because I was reading through the clear, pure devotional lenses of the knowledge given by Srila Prabhupada. So then the Old Testament and New Testament came so alive. I can 100% say, like, my appreciation for Moses, David HaMelech, Jesus, Allah has increased, deepened millions of times because of Prabhupada. Feinen.
I have a question about questions. It was something that stood out from the class about inquiry, and Atato Brahma Jignasa, like now is the time to inquire. I think you mentioned, and then like mentioning about the scientists, and they're always inquiring, they're seeking an answer, and then the spirit of humility or humbleness was mentioned. And then in a class I was listening to with Prabhupada, he mentioned about we should ask questions, like being like a fool, ask questions. And so I reflect on myself, and I find it hard to ask questions. And so and I don't think for me it's not about ego or that I know it all. It's just questions don't occur to me. like I have to work really hard to find the question. So like part of me is like, well, if that is the human form of life, it's meant for this purpose, to inquire about the absolute truth, then what's that about that I'm unable to, or not unable, but find it hard to inquire, like through questions. So yeah, so I'm not sure what the exact question is, but I'm just naming that's standing out for me, and I'm curious about it.
I appreciate your personal and philosophical question about questions. So thanks for that. So yeah, I mean, I see that there's like, let's call it the external meaning of that. And external doesn't mean superfluous. Like, let's call it external, means like towards the end of the morning program class, when we say, okay, any questions? Like, yeah, who's asking questions like that? And so that's there. That's there. Like Maharaj Parikshit is verbally asking questions. And then essentially it's being in that spirit of discovery. And just like hearing your question, looking at you here on Zoom video, I experience you as in a spirit of discovery. So that's the essence. That may be when whether it's in a class or whether I'm reading my personal reading, that it might not necessarily mean like I formulated this verb, these 3 questions. And sometimes it is helpful to give us to that structure. It is about being in a spirit of openness and discovery, and that's the essence. Like sometimes it's said that all species are always asking questions, the birds and the bees and the trees and the lion. So not that they're verbally in the way we think linguistically, but they're asking questions. Yeah, where is food? Where's a mate? Where's shelter? So it's like the essence of the consciousness of questioning. And then, of course, the special opportunity as spirit souls in a human form is we get to direct that propensity for questions towards absolute truth, towards questions that are transcendent to stuff around eating, sleeping, mating, defending. So just because someone is not verbally asking questions at the end of a class so much, it doesn't mean that they're not living that principle. And simultaneously, we can look at ourselves. If I'm asking a lot of verbal questions, yeah, spirit of discovery. At the same time, whether it's me or others, because maybe someone's asking questions and there is a lot of material ego there that, I want to show how smart I am by my questions. If we're not so much asking questions, to what extent, well, I'm absorbing in a spirit of discovery and I don't want to force myself. It's just, that's my healthy way of being in that spirit. Or is there some like, well, for me to ask a question, it needs to be brilliant. I really need to look good if I ask, is there some of that going on? So, whatever our relationship with questions, we want to be introspective. And it's not essentially an external thing.
Okay, thank you. Because what comes to me as I hear you and also reflect on something Sarah said was that, like, what I take is that childlike, and I think of kids when they're little, it's like, why is this, why is that? There's a spirit of curiosity, a spirit of discovery about life and an innocence. And so with Len's conversation about like the diamond and the being covered over, like, so for me, I could think, well, the jadedness or the skepticism, like when that covers over that natural innocence and curiosity, then that is part of the mud that stops me from asking questions, whether it's verbally or internally. So I'm getting that.
Yeah, through the conversation, you're looking at that. Yeah, there's the childlike spirit of discovery, and you can see that maybe sometimes when you're not asking questions, it's because that natural soul felt childlike spirit of why. Maybe it is becoming covered by a jadedness, and that's the sort of thing you're raising awareness about.
Yeah, and I suppose also a place of, for me anyway, there's a place of, if in asking a question, there's an opportunity to go deeper than just at one level. So like you in the seminar will say the three most dangerous words are, I know that. So where the I know stops me, others from going deeper. I might know something on one level, but not on others. So thank you. I appreciate the space.
Thank you, Faina.
I comment on what Fanan just shared. Like, thank you, Fanan, for saying all that, because I feel a lot of those same things. And I just wanted to comment that, like, the science part, like, I feel like I'm just like not a scientist at all in my heart. Like, I'm so like floaty and like artistic and sunrises and colors and textures and music. And I stay in that kind of, to me, it feels childlike and curious, but it doesn't, I don't go to deep questioning. I don't know, I just like, it seems like what I experience is like, ever since I started dabbling with bhakti and coming to the first programs and learning the kirtans and taking on the harmonium and whatever, all those things enhance my connection to God. And I don't know how to really relate it directly to Krishna so much, but I really relate to Prabhupada. So like my life changed, and every day it changes and it improves, and my attitude, my heaviness, my heart, my soul connection, like all of it, inch by inch, day by day, I just feel better as a person. And so I just go with that as the confidence of like, this process works. And when I'm reading or studying, I like to go deep and like really get into the material and really see what happens. But it's such a one-on-one process with me and myself that I never have the urge, Fanan, to come and say, well, I need to go ask this question to see what everybody thinks. Or, I might ask David a question here or there, but I'm just not inquisitive like that. Like, I feel like I'm an inquisitive person in general, but not about this. It's like this process works for me. The rest is just like immersing myself as much as I can each day to do what Lynn said. Lynn, thank you for that question too, because when you asked that, I was thinking the same thing. It's like, why are we so covered if we're so genuine underneath? And then I when David, your answer was so clear, it's like, well, when I'm in bhakti all day, like the day of Drew's birthday a couple of days ago, I was in devotional service all day from 4 a.m. till 10 or 11 at night. I don't feel so covered. I feel joyful enough to do things after dark is difficult for me, unless I'm in real spiritual service in my mind and my practice is strong. But I think that there's always been a lot of self-judgment on myself. And I'm looking at that for the last just few weeks. I've been looking at it like, why do I not ask so many questions? And why does everybody else have so many questions? Like, it was really heavy on me. So I just released it a few weeks ago. And I had a coaching session with David about it. And by the time I got to the session, I really didn't feel so heavy with it anymore. And I've really lightened up, and just by letting go of that pressure to judge myself about my process has let me even go even deeper. So as I'm sitting here listening to all of the questions, there's a hint of, why don't I have that question? Or why am I not like them? Or I should have questions. But when I don't allow that voice in, and I just enjoy the conversation that you all are having, every one of them, every question and every answer is poignant to my soul. I hear it, and it seeps in and permeates me, but it doesn't bring up it doesn't bring up that. So when I don't think I've ever heard anybody say in this class what you just said, Fanon, is like, well, okay, so that my process looks different and I don't have those questions, and not focuses so much on why, but like just accepting myself and knowing that I'm serious about my practice. I'm serious about everything you're saying. It feels like, it just feels truth. I think that's what it is. It like just feels like truth. So if I listen to all the lectures that we share and all the classes and the music and you know, in this house, we have a lot of conversations because there's several of us here all the time, more than when I lived by myself. It spawned a lot more internal dialogue and external dialogue, but it's still, I don't ever wake up and run to George and say, I've got this question. But in our conversations, you know, I think some of our questions are answered automatically, but I'm just appreciating that today, like what you described, Fanon, is kind of where I'm at, is like, there's someone else out there that has that same thought. And it feels affirming that I'm okay. Somehow I need to know that I'm not the only one, or that I guess this last few weeks, as I'm being in self-acceptance of less self-judgment, to hear someone say it on the screen, it just kind of like, oh, I can relax even a few more inches and just kind of enjoy the experience and just be with it, and not, I don't know, like not go so like critical of it and get lost in all the question is more of like, what's wrong with me, instead of what's going on with the lecture. So I don't know, I just feel like I want to share that because I feel like it's clearing me up to be in this class today. And in case I get asked this question a lot, so maybe that's also why I'm saying it. In fact, Lynn asked me recently, and I did some one-on-one with Faye and Ann as well about it, and I've talked to Sarah about it. So I feel like a lot of you on there are my friends and have been through this with me, but it's like, why don't I say much? I just don't, I don't feel like I'm holding back. I don't feel like, sometimes I feel shy, but I don't feel like, I just feel like I have a unique, I'm so artsy in my mind. Like if we were talking about something I was really confident in, that I really knew, maybe I'd have more questions, but to me, this is all still very brand new and very, it's not concrete yet for me. And so I'm just experiencing the experience of bhakti and letting that be the energy that moves me to do it, to get up and move that energy the next day and the next day. And so over time, I feel settled in my practice, and that's putting all the faith in the practice and not so much in the questions about the philosophy and the science. That's a long answer, but I just needed to put all that into a capsule for my own self, but also for the people on the screen that I'm looking at that have asked me that very question of why do you never ask any questions? You know, Lynn, that's especially for you. So thank you for listening and let me process that. All of you have, everyone I'm looking at, except for maybe Tyler, I've had a discussion with that about. Thank you. Hare Krishna. A long answer. That wasn't a question, you see, that was just an explanation. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, I appreciate your sharing, Lakshmi Priya. I'm hearing you so much saw yourself and your process in Fainan's sharing and question. And yeah, I'm glad you shared, because when Fainan was expressing, I was thinking of Lakshmi Priya. I know you've been through some similar process there. Thanks for expressing. Anything else? Thank you all for your enthusiasm for self-realization and Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai, Isha Putra ki jai. Hare Krishna.